Welcome to the Exhibit A podcast.
Welcome to Exhibit A. Today we have some of our young superstars from our firm that's going to enlighten us as to why they're practicing family law, and specifically why they're practicing family law from a big law school. With us, we have our two Monets. Monet H, how are you today?
Hi, Don. I'm doing well, thank you.
And we have Monet K. Monet K, you were just on the program a little while ago. You're starting to be spend more time doing these than anything else, aren't you?
Yep.
Good. And then we have Brooke, and Brooke is our most recent attorney, but by no means is she unfamiliar with how this firm works, because she, like the rest of them, were clerks for our office for several years. Hi, Brooke.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Okay, so looking forward to having a really fun conversation today. This was not my idea. The three of you got together and you thought this would be something that people would enjoy, and I agree. The topic is going to be going into small to mid-sized law firms from a big law school environment or big law school. Let's just put it out there. The three of you are from the prestigious school of USC School of Law. I hope I got that right. Monet H, is that how you pronounce your School of Law?
Yes, Don. It's I guess the full name is Gould USC School of Law, but
I knew I was missing the Gould part of it, but I thought I would kind of shorten it. So, Monet K. So, are you aware of the fact that USC was recently ranked as like the number 10 law school in the entire nation?
Yeah, I think the rankings for both USC undergraduate and USC, the law school, they're going up. So, our competitor across the town, UCLA, we're always either a little bit below them or a little bit above them. So it's a friendly competition we have going on, but the rankings are going up higher and higher.
Brooke, are you also familiar with the ranking of your school?
Oh, yes. I come from a Trojan family, so they keep me updated on all things ranking. It's a little funny because growing up with both my parents went there and being so close to USC, I didn't think of it as anything so amazing. And I'm now lucky that I was able to go there and had the opportunity, actually. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, so I graduated law school in 1993, and SC was a really good law school, but it wasn't ranked in the top 10 from what I remember. So it's gotten better and better through the years. And I am so privileged to have three superstars, because all of you were really pretty top of your class as well. So I'm just bragging a little bit before we get into it. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about the environment of a big law school, like SC. What they're really aiming at with regard to their student body. And I'll start off with Monet H. Tell us what the general feel is around a law school like that, about what careers people will be going into.
Well, first of all, Don, I'd like to mention that, USC, one of the reasons why I selected to go there, and I'm sure the girls can agree, is because it's known for having such a huge network of alumni and people who just support each other. And that's actually how most of us found our jobs. And, I think that that's one of the very, very best things about USC. That's one of the reasons I chose to go there. I wasn't really sure about what I wanted to do or what area of law I wanted to go into, as I'm sure many law students can agree. You don't really know what you want to get into. You don't even know if you want to be in law school while you're attending. So, I think USC is really great about helping students find job placements. But I think your first year as a law student, you're really concentrating on your grades. And towards your second semester, you start learning about this process called OCI. And I had no idea what that was, because none of my parents are attorneys, and I don't really, I wasn't aware of the culture going in. So that stands for on-campus interviews. And basically what that means is at the end of your first year, in the summer, I think it's the first week of August, there is a process called OCI where a bunch of big law firms come to your school, and the interviews are conducted at it used to be called the Radisson Hotel. I think now USC owns the hotel, so it's the name changed. But basically they convert a bunch of the hotel rooms into interview rooms, and they conduct 3 days worth of interviews. And it's kind of like a lottery system where you apply and you select the firms you want to interview with, and sometimes it's based on your GPA, but for it to be fair, they do a lottery system where you're selected to interview with some of the firms that you want to interview with. And then, you either get a call back or you don't. And this all happens at the same time. And, you hear people getting callbacks and you're not getting a call back, and it's all very stressful. So from my experience, I thought that you have to get a big law job your second year summer, because that was kind of the structure going into OCI. That's the only type of firms that interview. However, I wasn't aware that, during your second year, there's also a smaller OCI where smaller firms such as our firm come to interview for summer associates and summer law clerks. And, I think your first year, you kind of start learning that, hey, I want to get into big law. And then as you network more and as you learn more, the career counselors and the school kind of help you navigate your way through networking and learning more about smaller firms such as our firm and interviewing. And it's a different process, but it's definitely, the counselors are there to help you based on your interest, which I think is the greatest part.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I have seen your school's way of taking care of you. I know that all three of you have felt free to call back at the school and ask for favors or connect with people. And it's really loud and clear. We have employed a lot of people from different law schools, but it's really obvious that USC's got a really good alumni system where they're helping people out. So Monte K, you're all three of you so young, so you've probably never seen my favorite movie. My favorite movie is The Firm. Okay, you've never seen it, have you, Monte K?
No.
Okay, well, you poor thing. You know what? That's your new assignment. You got to go see that. So, anyways, it is with it's about a guy that goes to Harvard, and the movie starts off with him being wined and dined by these big firms. Tom Cruise is the guy that plays it, and it is so fun. I mean, I saw the movie when I was waiting for bar results, man. It was hilarious, But I picture that the experience that you have at a big law school is pretty similar to that, where these big firms throughout the nation are basically descending upon your school and trying to wine and dine people and get them to come over. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I think that one of the things about going to a top 20 school, and what that means is a law school that's ranked 20 and above, is you get a lot of those advantages where employers automatically may want to contact you, or you can contact the employer yourself. So a lot of times, if you're interested in whatever area, your career counselor will find an alumni at that firm, and you just reach out, can I get coffee sometime with you? And I've never had somebody say no to me. I've never had an alumni not want to sit down and talk to me or give me advice. If they couldn't meet me in person, it was over the phone. But prior to this firm, when I was looking in my first year summer, a lot of employers, as soon as they see USC on your resume, and I'm also from the rival school, UCLA, they have this oh, you're a Bruin and a Trojan, this is great, and they're more responsive to you. I felt like there was definitely that, they wanted to talk to me, they wanted to get to know me, and then they want to get to know the school. And one of the things is that the school will, at least USC, will definitely have your back. So if you have a bad experience with an employer or at an interview and you tell the career counselor, they will reach out and say, this is not acceptable, or you need to change your behavior because you can't do this to our students. I've had experience, not a terrible one, but I just mentioned something to my externship advisor, and she called the attorney and was like, you need to provide more training on this. You're stressing our students out. So
I hope that wasn't from our firm.
No.
Okay.
No. So in terms of that, we are, I mimic what Monte H was saying, we are very well taken care of, and it is kind of that wine and dine. I think just recently all three of us were at the small mid-sized reception, and so they always go all out. There's a ton of food and ton of drinks, and all the alumni are there. They want to talk to the students. We had students reach out to us after that networking event and just even ask for advice and outlines, and everyone's more than willing to share their expertise and information.
Cool. So, Brooke, you're last up with this question I have here is, have you ever seen the movie The Firm?
I have not, but isn't it, it's like a John Grisham movie or book?
Yeah,
I think?
you got to read the book too. The book is great.
I think we have the book somewhere around this house. I'll get on my required reading.
Mandatory reading for all three of you. So in that movie, what happens is that Tom Cruise, the student, gets hired by this pretty prestigious law firm in the South, and he's working for it, and he gets caught up in the culture of the firm, which ends up being corrupt, but it's got all the earmarks of what I would think, big law is. They're doing all kinds of things good for him, but he's working outrageous hours and things like that. And at the end, guess what he does? He turns into a good guy. And the final scene is he and his wife are driving away with a little U-Haul in the back. And she's saying, you're going to be a great attorney just working for a little small firm. And it just warmed my heart. You got to see it. Okay.
Okay. I'm on it.
Anyways, so let's get into the substance of this topic here. So can you get into a small, mid-sized law if you're coming from a big law school without feeling, like you underachieved? I mean, all three of you are overachievers, right? And you're not going to the big law, but you've come to the little office of Donald P. Schweitzer. So can you do that without the scorn and ridicule of the people in your school?
I think you definitely can do it, but you have to be firm in your choice. I came into law school knowing I wanted to do something maybe smaller or mid-sized. Big law wasn't going to be for me. But when OCI came around, I did feel some pressure to do the interviews just because it's good to practice your interviews. So I did, I think, 5 or 6 on-campus interviews. And then when I saw my friends getting callbacks and getting their jobs and going out to dinner, it's hard not to feel jealous or like maybe you've made the wrong choice by not going forward with your interviews.
I'll take you out to dinner.
Pardon me?
I'll take all three of you out to dinner if it makes you feel better, okay?
Thanks. Well, and then, your second year with everyone has a job for the summer and you don't have that job yet, it's very stressful and you definitely question yourself a lot, or at least I did, even though I knew I didn't want to do that. The security and the scheduling and the timeline that getting hired at a big law firm offers you, it's hard to not be jealous of that, I think. I'm glad I stayed firm in my decision. Obviously, I'm very happy where I am, but you have to keep reminding yourself that this is what you want to do and why this is what you want to do.
Yeah, and I'll mimic what Brooke is saying. I've had similar experience as Brooke, but you have to be okay with the timeline. So if you want to do big law, you know that summer is your one and done. Because if you don't get it that summer, sure, you could get it down the line, but it's going to be a little bit of a different time frame. If you don't want to do big law, which I came into law school saying I don't want to do big law, then your timeline shifts. So, boutiques and mid-size and small firms aren't necessarily hiring at that summer because they don't know what they're going to need a year and a half out. So you're going to have to keep looking and keep your momentum and interview and call alumni and ask to sit down for coffee. Everyone talks about the Trojan Network and it works. However, it only works if you work for it. And I just want to clarify something. When we're talking about small law versus mid-size, that's based on the number of attorneys in the firm, not necessarily the scope of the practice or how much we do. We have a lot of cases. All 4 of us here on this video are swamped with work. So we're not doing small scale things. It's based on the number of attorneys you have. I believe big law is over 200 attorneys and some of them have offices worldwide. So that's what those, adjectives mean. It doesn't mean like we're a small little firm in Pasadena. So I agree with Brooke. You have to be really cautious of what you want and be firm in what you want, but also talk to other attorneys. I know when I sit down and talk with my friends right now who are in big law, I'm doing a lot more substantive legal work and maybe know a lot more about civil procedure or evidence than they do. and we started off the same, you know, we're all first year associates. So you have to be really firm with what you want and believe what you want and figure out what your passion is and go there.
Yeah, Mane H, with respect to you going through law school and having this experience, a 1L is a law student that's in the first year, then there's 2L and there's 3L, just for our audience that wouldn't know that. So usually what happens is during the first and second year of being in law school, you're exploring. And I think that all three of you have looked at and had some experience of other places before you came to our firm. So what did you do during those 2 years other than practicing with us?
I did a lot of different things. Unlike Mane and Brooke, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I didn't even know if I wanted to do a bigger firm or a smaller firm. So like I was saying before, I did participate in the on-campus interviews, and I thought that was a really good experience. I think I did about 20 interviews. I got a few callbacks. I did that whole going to a firm, having dinner, being taken out. I wasn't really sure what area I wanted to get into. I was just learning the difference between litigation and transaction. I still don't know what transactional law attorneys do, even though some of my friends do that and they don't even know to tell me. So my first summer, I worked at the district attorney's office in the victim impact unit. And because I was a little bit interested in doing prosecution work, so I worked there my first year summer, and I kind of, it was a good experience in terms of sitting in a courtroom and watching a murder trial for 3 days. And I did do a few motions, and I think it confirmed that I wanted to do litigation, but then it also told me that I didn't want to go into criminal law. Some other places I worked at, I was always interested in employment law, or at least I thought I was interested in employment law. So I actually worked for a judge who did administrative work at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. In the federal building. So I worked there during my second year. I was going to school and interning there part-time, and that was a great experience. Working for a neutral person such as an administrative judge who doesn't really take sides, and that kind of made me realize that I do like the I'm very nice, I'm easy to get along with, but I do like the I like arguing, and I like taking sides, and I like advocating. So that made me realize, hey, that's kind of what I want to do. I do want to go to court, and I do want to fight for my clients. So from there is when I saw a posting from our firm, and I didn't really want to go into family law, but I applied, and I got an interview with Dawn, and it was a completely different experience from the interviews I had been going to previously. And I think I told him during the interview, this is a different experience. I haven't had, all my interviews were, a lot scarier, and Dawn was very nice. And, just being in that environment made me realize, hey, this is something I'm interested in. And, I followed up with him, and I didn't hear back for a couple of weeks, so I was a little worried. But I remember you called me back, Dawn. It was like 5 p.m. the day where my internship at the EEOC was ending, and the judge had told me that he would want me to go back if I was interested. So I had to make a decision whether I was gonna stay there during my second year summer, or if, I was gonna work with the firm. And I hadn't heard from you, and it was 5 p.m. And then I got a voicemail because I was at work, so I didn't pick up. And it was Don, and he offered me the summer position, and I was thrilled. I was excited, and that's kind of how my journey was.
So I was saved by the bell, man. I mean, just right in there, man. Slid into home plate, boy. I love it. Okay. Well, I can tell you what I thought was interesting when you came in is you lit up the room just like you always do, and very nice, smart, young law student, and you told me you wanted to be in court. And you never know until people get into court and stuff, but you definitely have proven to me that you like to litigate. And so all three of you have chosen the life of a litigator. And I told you recently that all three of you are crazy. So Monte K, with respect to the importance of finding a good career advisor, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's incredibly important. I think all of us got very fortunate because USC has Rachel, and she used to be a family law attorney. And funny story, I met Rachel in 2013 when I was externing at Justice Court helping family law self-help litigants. And she had just started her position at USC Law as a counselor. And she talked to me and she said, when you're ready to apply, reach out. If you still choose family law, reach out to me. And when I went to USC, I went to her office and I said, hey, do you remember me? And we kind of made a full circle. And she really helped me through, as what Brooke was saying, when those moments happened where I was like, am I making the right choice? Should I go into even litigation? Do I even like law? What is happening? I would go to her office and we would chat. And one of the things I'm sure we all heard her say was, you need to learn how to put the bat down and not beat yourself up, because it's very easy to get bogged down. It's so competitive being in law school, and it's so competitive coming from a top 20 with this pressure of like having this big law, quote unquote, employment at the end of graduation. And if you don't have like an anchor to bring you back to kind of your own reality and what you want to do, it's incredibly difficult. And when I told her I'm considering going into family law, I've done other things, but I really like family law, she actually said, well, Monte H is at Dawn's office. Why don't you reach out to her? And I think Monte and I grabbed coffee her summer while she was externing with you. And we chatted and we spoke. And then I met another alumni who put me in touch with Debbie, who's a partner at our firm. And that's how I got my job. So, all of that, what we say about the Trojan Network is true, but it's equally important to have a guidance counselor who's going to really help you out. I was just emailing with her a few minutes ago, actually. So, she's been like that support person, because I don't have anybody in my family that went to law school that knows the difference between a boutique and a big law and the culture and what you need to do to get in where. So I was coming into it with zero experience and knowledge. And she really would sit down and say, okay, here's the plan. Here's who you're going to call. Here's who you're going to email. Let me look at your resume and your cover letter. And we would do mock interviews, and she would reach out to alumni who would do mock interviews with me. So it's really crucial that you have somebody who's going to really have your back. And there were days where she told me, she's like, you're going to come in and I'm not going to have anything good to say. And it's going to be a really bad day, but that's just one day. So, I'm really fortunate that we have her.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I want to now kind of delve into a different topic, and that's going to be, what are the advantages of being with a small law firm, particularly a family law firm, versus going to big law? I'm going to start with you, Brooke. Can you name some of them?
Of course. I think there's 3 really big advantages to small firms or family law in general, or specifically, I should say. First is that small firms, especially family law, they know how to have a good work-life balance. Just by the nature of what we do, we see what happens when you're neglecting those relationships or letting your work take its toll on you. So we're equipped to deal with that better, I think. Second, when you're in a small firm, especially, we have 9 attorneys, which is actually pretty big for family law. You're it. You can't pass this off to a junior associate. Even though I am basically a junior associate, like, I have the work, I need to do it, and I get all that experience. And sort of, I guess this would be piggybacking off of that is, you're going to have to go to court. There's not enough of us that only the senior partners are going to be doing those court appearances. So, you're learning by sort of getting thrown into the deep end in the absolute best way. So I think those are the 3 big things, and why I'm so happy that I went into this type of law.
Yeah, Brooke, I know that a lot of attorneys that have been in big law firms for many years eventually get tired of it, and they believe it or not, they actually look at the smaller mid-sized firms and they go, boy, if I could just do that. I've met so many people that have stepped away from big law and gone into, smaller law firms for those very reasons.
Yeah. Well, and I should mention, I think I forgot to say this, again, it's going with there not being a ton of other attorneys. You get to really have these close bonds and relationships with your client. The work that we do is very personal, obviously, so we're already getting to know our clients a little bit better than maybe other practices. But again, it's on you to keep that relationship strong, to, you're not always the lawyer, you are sometimes the person to listen to, even though we try to stop that, from getting too out of hand. But I really enjoy having these relationships with the people that I'm helping. And I don't think you see that in big law all the time.
Right. My AH. So some attorneys spend careers working for other people in big law firms and they never see the inside of a courtroom. Some attorneys never get to sit first chair. Some attorneys in big law firms never see the inside of a trial. Now, during your first year, you went to trial and you've done some other things. Can you speak about how fulfilling that's been for you? Is mine AH?
Yeah, Don, thank you. I'm, as much as I'm terrified of being in court and being in front of a judge, and, I can't stress this enough, probably your first 5 years, you're going to be nervous and you're going to be scared. And, watching Don and how he prepares, is really impressive because you never seem nervous, and which I'm sure you are sometimes. But, personally, I think, it's terrifying, but it's also really exciting. My first year, I was lucky enough to go to court several times by myself. And sometimes I volunteered to go for other attorneys who were too busy. And, it's terrifying, and I always regret it, the day before, like, why did I volunteer to go to court or make this appearance? But that feeling you get after, your case is called and you make your argument, and, even if you don't win, I think that feeling you get when you're driving back to the office, it's, nothing compares to that. I think it's such a wonderful, fulfilling feeling, knowing you did your best to help your client. And, I think it was 6 months into practicing family law, Don was like, okay, well, you're doing this trial by yourself, and I think you're ready, and a client wants you to represent her, and she really likes you, and I think you can do it, and you should start preparing, and it's your case. So I was, of course, terrified. I spent 2 or 3 days just freaking out, not really being productive because I wasn't sure I can handle it by myself. And I spoke with the other partners and kind of told them how I was feeling. And everybody just told me, if Don thinks you could do it, you should trust his opinion and his judgment because he knows what he's doing. So that's kind of what got me through it. Just knowing that, okay, if Don trusts me to do this, that means I could do it. Not really saying I could do it, but saying, if Don thinks I could do it, then I could do it. So a lot of prep time up front, and it was a 3-day trial, so it was pretty exhausting. You don't realize how tiring it is until you do it yourself, because all of us go and watch Don, and we sit in the gallery, but I think it's a completely different experience when you're the one actually sitting up there and arguing to the judge and cross-examining people and direct examining your own client. So after, and this is, I can't stress enough how true this was, but everyone told me, the morning of your first day, it's going to be the toughest part. And after the morning of your first day, you're going to get the hang of it, and it's going to become easier, and it's actually going to be fun if you're prepared. And that was very true. The first morning I was really nervous, and, after the first 2 hours, it was still difficult, and you still had to be prepared, but it was kind of just, it came naturally. And I think it did get a little fun, when you're cross-examining the other guy and you kind of catch them in a lie, or, they can't answer your question because they're lying. I think that was a really good feeling. And fortunately, I was really well prepared, and we did well for our client. And, in family law, I don't really know if you could win or lose a trial or a hearing, just because it's such a different field. And, there's really no clear winner or loser. But my client was happy. And I remember after we were done, she was like, "Can I give you a hug? I'm so happy." And she was crying. And that was truly like, one of the best memories from my first year of practice. And anytime I'm stressed right now or I'm overwhelmed, I always think back to that. And if I got through that and I came out the other side stronger and better, I think, I always compare everything to that. And I think, I hope that both of you get to experience that. And it's truly one of the best things about doing litigation.
Yeah, and you forgot that you went up against a very experienced attorney in that case as well, and you won. Let's not pretend that you didn't, because you won that because it was a singular issue, and you definitely won on that one. So, okay, Brooke, you're up. I'm sorry, not Brooke. Let's talk to Mane K. I'm sorry, I skipped right over you, Mane K. Let's talk about your ideas to the advantages of going to a smaller firm, particularly a family law firm.
Yeah, I'm gonna just like mimic again what Brooke and Monty H have been saying. One of the best parts about, I think, being in family law is that it's never boring. And unlike other areas of law where maybe one thing and one thing really well, in family law that just doesn't cut it. You can't just say, "Oh, I know the code, I know the family law code." You have to know civil procedure really well. You need to know evidence really well. Not only that, you need to know bankruptcy law sometimes, and tax, and how to read taxes, and how to do sometimes accounting work. And you can't just say, "Oh, I know what this code says, and I have the law, and I have the facts, and I'm gonna plug and chug and come out with the conclusion that's gonna win the court," because that's not gonna cut it. So for me, what's fulfilling is that you're always learning. It's never boring, and the facts are never boring. I mean, sometimes something happens and your client shares something, it changes the whole strategy of your case. That's really fun because there's a lot of prep early on in our cases of how we're going to gear our motions and the timeline. So you're never sitting there just doing document review to no end or writing a legal research memo to no end. Like what I forgot, I think it was Brooke who said it, your case is your case. So you're doing the research, you're writing the memo, you're talking to the client and interviewing the client, and then you're doing the paperwork. And if you don't know something, our firm is so good at helping you out. But it's your baby and you get to do this. And I think I haven't made a court appearance yet, but we were in court on a kidnapping issue where one of the spouse had kidnapped the child away. And with those cases, those are very quick turnaround to come out with a motion. We met with the client Monday and we were in court on Wednesday getting this motion. And I think it was maybe a month after I had passed the bar. So I was still I'm still scared. I think I'll be scared for like 6 years, but I was very nervous because now it's like everything that I write goes to judge and the judge reads it. And oh my God, what if I mess up? And the judge actually granted our motion to get the district attorney involved and get the child back. And I remember staring at the signature of the judge going, I wrote this on Monday afternoon. And something happened. Like what I wrote actually had an effect, and the client was crying and I kind of felt emotional. But in terms of what we're all saying, that's like the best part. It's so fulfilling because what you're doing has an immediate effect. It doesn't get filed into some folder that nobody reads or maybe somebody reads, but it's super critical what you do and it affects people's lives. So that client relationship or, management and having a relationship with opposing counsel and learning all of that has been really fulfilling.
I also think that it somehow collectively makes us better people because we're dealing with so many different problems and we get to see people's lives and we get to touch them. It really is very rewarding. Okay, Brooke, now I'm back to you. Now I'm going to ask you, because we're running out of time here, what would you say to the students now that are out there that are considering, the direction that they want to go into? What would be your advice?
Well, first, I would say I'm so sorry you're going through a school right now with the COVID crisis and graduation, the bar. I'd have to start with that. But then more seriously, I would say you need to be exploring, and don't get so stuck in this idea that you need to go to a big law firm and that's the only path for you. Because I think that just stops you from seeing other opportunities that you might have. My first 2 years, I worked at a legal aid for veterans, which actually is what got me into family law. I worked for the DA's office, and I worked, of course, I'm going to forget where else I worked. Another legal aid, I think. And they were all pretty different. At the DA's office, I was doing preliminary hearings, which showed me, kind of like Mane was saying, that I wanted to be in court, but I realized I didn't want to do criminal. And without taking these, they're not even risks because they're, worst case, it's a bad experience and it looks good on your resume. But to take these opportunities, I guess, is really important. Don't just hunker down and, say, I'm going to do big law and that's it, unless you're sure that's what you want to do. And even if that is what you want to do, you have your 1L summer and 2L year to still try other types of law, which I think is really, really great and sort of why you're going to law school. And then you can still do that big law job that you end up doing, and you can look fondly back at your time in a smaller firm. So I would just say, don't be afraid to do that and don't let yourself get boxed in too early. Take those classes that, you have a little inkling of interest in and see where that takes you, because you're not going to figure this stuff out without doing something.
Excellent. My age, you would be speaking to some younger attorneys or possibly some students after you're going into your second year of being a practitioner. What kind of pearls of wisdom would you give them?
I think the one really big thing that everybody should try to do is do an internship in the area that you think you're interested in. If it's family law, you can always do an internship with a judge. I know that judges are, especially if it's a state court, they are taking a lot of student interns and they need all the help they can get. So I think that's really important to do, because a lot of our attorneys have worked for judges before, and that's kind of how they learn about family law and kind of got to see all the action in chambers and things like that. And, another thing that the girls were talking about is just, take those classes. I took a family law class, and that's how I learned about everything. You meet professionals, you learn about the topic, take classes, experiment. And, that's really being in law school, and being in school is the only time where you get to experiment and, you have time, and you're not really worried about paying your bills or paying your mortgage because you're still in school. Most people are still, just students, and that's, you're going to look back at that and you're going to wish you did more. So I think you should take all the opportunities you can get, whether that means go to all the networking events that you're interested in, take those classes, take those internships, even if they don't pay, because, you're going to have the rest of your life to make money. So take that time to kind of just experiment and be a student and learn.
When you say that, I think about my experience, and it wasn't until I started doing internships that I really felt like I was getting it in law school, so that's a really good point. Mane K. So speaking of that, traditionally, there was no such thing as a law school, right? There was people like Abraham Lincoln who might have studied under other people, Thomas Jefferson. But then this law school environment came about, and it kind of took away from the mentorship, of the underling. Do you agree with Mane H that that internship and those jobs, summer jobs, are critical for you to develop as an attorney?
Absolutely. I know that I wouldn't be where I am as a first year associate now had I not had those internships and externships. And I agree what Mane H is saying in terms of you have the rest of your life to make money. All of my internships and externships, I think with the exception of our firm, were not paid. And yes, I paid for parking sometimes in downtown, which was very expensive every day. And I was fortunate enough that I could do that. But the reward of that was just completely invaluable. I externed with 2 judges, and I really, really encourage every student to do this, whether you're going to be in federal court, transactional law, litigation, state court, it does not matter. You need to have a conversation with the judge face to face and say, what are you looking for in a litigant? Because especially in litigation, there's so many factors. It's not solely the motion you write or the exhibits you attach. It's how you perform in court, your etiquette, how you're talking to the clerks, especially if you're going to be in state court. How are you going to address the clerks? I had a wonderful experience with a judge in state court, and I would talk to the clerk a lot, like, what should have this litigant done differently? Or talk to the judge. You're never going to have that one-on-one as an attorney. And to have the judge tell you, well, this is what they should have argued, this is what you should put, or this is what you should remind the court. You're not going to know that if you haven't had that experience. And it's not necessarily that you're going to magically know all the rules when you're practicing. I know I certainly don't. But there are some things that I go, oh, the judge said you should kind of mention this. And then I remember to do that in my papers or in my discussions with the client. Those are completely important. And if you don't do it with the judge, you're going to get an experience interning and working with different people and seeing how different attorneys work. I am a firm believer that every single attorney can teach you something. If they can't mentor you and teach you positive things, they're going to teach you either what not to do or how to handle yourself. There are several opposing counsels now when I look at their work and I go, oh, actually, that's an interesting way to handle that. And most important thing is if you do an internship or an externship, follow up with those people. Shoot them a hello, hey, how you doing? Thank you so much. Build your network. Your network is not something that's gonna kind of stay there. It's a moving wheel. So you have to always follow up and say hello. And one of the things I learned very early on was your professional career starts way before you even get your first job. It starts the first day of your law school. So really keep that in mind and just be true and honest to yourself and speak up about the jobs that you want or the experiences that you want to have.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank all 3 of you for doing this. I think that it's going to be really, really helpful for those in the audience that are considering law school, those people that are in law school that are thinking about the jobs, and maybe even some new attorneys that quite haven't really figured out what they want to do. So thanks again, and thank you for joining us on Exhibit A, and we'll see you next time.
For more information, visit us at PasadenaLawOffice.com.